we're going to study virtual gaming societies using an anthropological perspective, we need to know, what is anthropology? Actually, it's right in the name. Anthro comes from the Greek word anthropos, which means humanity or humankind, and the suffix logos means, simply put, study of. So anthropologists study humans. That includes evolution, that includes how we act with one another within our cultural groups and with those who are not within our cultural groups. It also means we can study anything from indigenous tribes, farm communities, middle school classrooms, pretty much anywhere and everywhere that humans are and have had an effect. That's anthropology, including the virtual societies that we're going to be discussing in this vlog. However, you cannot study humans without understanding the full range of the human phenomenon. In order to do that, we need to use a holistic approach that includes all four fields of anthropology: socioculture, biological, archaeology, and linguistics. I'm going to touch very briefly on the four fields of anthropology. Cultural anthropology studies patterns of behavior, both in historical cultures and contemporary cultures. This includes spending time amongst a community in order to understand its different social structures. Biological anthropology studies humans as organisms. This includes evolution, changes in modern human populations, forensics, and medical anthropology. You can find biological anthropologists studying mummies, digging up sites where we see Homo floresiensis, or at crime scenes, or studying how healthcare has an effect on human populations. Archaeology studies humans through material remains to develop a better understanding of human adaptation and behavior across time. This could be exploring 3,500-year-old tombs, understanding why ancient civilizations built Stonehenge, digging up 19th century landfills, and even investigating the digital remains of abandoned websites and video games. Linguistic anthropology studies the development of language, its structure, its acquisition, and how it's used in the transmission of culture. Linguistic anthropology has helped us to develop an understanding of how language has shaped social life and human interaction across the world. Each of these fields focuses on a specific area of humanity. However, when combined, they give a deeper and more nuanced understanding of human diversity. Now that we know a bit more about anthropology, let's talk about ethnography. We're going to be using ethnographic methods to immerse ourselves and better understand massively multiplayer online gaming cultures. So what is ethnography? Once again, it's right in the name. Ethno comes from the Greek word ethos, which means people, class, caste, tribe, essentially a group of people. And graphy comes from the Greek word grapheme, which means to write. So ethnography is writing about people. However, when we think about ethnography, we tend to think about field workers, participant observation, the interviewing, the photographing, the recording of our notes. However, we also need to be theorists. We need to read and understand those who have studied before us. This lays the foundation while fieldwork guides the way. I can sense your trepidation. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking about that old ethnographic myth. You know the one I'm talking about. The one that says that you can't study a culture that you're part of, but pull that chin up. Don't let anybody tell you that your emic understanding's not valid. People tend to hang on to myths. They don't let go. But the emic view needs to be taken seriously. After all, that's why we're studying this culture. We want to understand things from their perspective. That's cultural relativism. We're not just pumping stats and facts, and after all, it's their culture. Their view is important. However, you do need to make sure that you differentiate when you're talking about the emic view and the Edic view when you're writing your ethnography. The Edic view is valid and it's scholarly. However, that scholarly manner is not the way that someone within the culture would describe themselves. So make sure you talk to people, you get out there and you understand them and you listen to what they have to say and you pay attention to what they're doing in the context in which they're doing it. So how do we do that? We need to use the thick description. Anthropologist Clifford Geertz said that we need to treat culture as text and fieldwork as a reading of that text. And that means employing what sociologist Max Weber called Verstehen. That means to think of things or look at things through the mind of the other. We need to gather as much information as possible to create a contextual analysis, because without that context, it's easy to misinterpret. Sometimes we might think of this as jumping to conclusions. So one of the most common examples used is the wink. What does it mean? Is it a wink? Is it a wink like, hey there? Is it a wink like, I gotcha? Or okay? We don't know without the context. Another good example is thinking about how we communicate in the digital age. We're constantly texting, we're emailing, we're talking through text, we're communicating through text. We lose that body language that we get when we talk to one another face to face. So when somebody texts you, okay, what does that mean? Does it mean, okay, they agree? Does it mean, okay, like they're confused or maybe they're a little irritated? We don't know without that context. So you can think of the thick description as a difference between living within the game world or reading a press release. You can think of it as being at the baseball game or reading the stats on a piece of paper. That context is what helps us create a thorough and well-analyzed ethnography. Context is the key to interpretation, and applying that context is a role of the ethnographer. Your job is to describe the cultural context in which human behavior occurs. That's a thick description, and it's especially important in virtual societies, so pay attention, ask questions, take your notes, and supply that context. So what's anthropology? It's a desire to understand the whole of humanity and the impact that we have on the world around us while developing a deep respect and appreciation for human differences. Anthropology is a desire to understand what it means to be human. And it's life-changing. I hope it changes yours. See you in game.